Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boschman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the numerology and the energy for the month of January 2022 for all life path numbers. It feels a bit surreal that we're already stepping into 2022, so Happy New Year! Before we get into the reading, I do want to mention that this, of course, is a general reading. If you're interested in a personalized reading, please book some time with me. My information is in the description box below. So, 2022 is a 6 universal cycle, and it's much different energy than the fast-paced, sort of frenetic, transformative, expansive, big energy of the 5 cycle of 2021. So I highly recommend, if you haven't already, listening to your 2022 forecast for your personal life path number to gain a better understanding of this 6 universal year-long cycle that we're all stepping into, because it's going to be a powerful year. For January specifically, we are stepping into a 7 universal cycle for the month. So collectively, we will all feel this energy in some way. So for those that are new to my channel, please understand that first and foremost, I'll go over the energy for the collective, and this includes you. And then I dive more specifically into the individual life path energy for the month. So it all works in tandem. So I highly suggest just getting cozy and listening to the entire video. So the 7 energy throughout January can sort of have us focusing more on our holistic health, body, mind, and spirit. What are we feeding our own life force? This isn't only referring to, of course, nutrients for the physical body, but what are we ingesting into our mind and our spirit as well? Who and what are we surrounding ourselves with? If the energy we are inviting in, body, mind, spirit, is more toxic than healthy, chaotic rather than soothing, aggressive over calm, and overall negative over positive, then that is the fuel that the entire vehicle and our presence, body, mind, spirit, is running on. So think about how that will affect how you feel, how you treat others, how you treat yourself, and your overall outlook on life. Under this 7 energy, we may find that the universe presents us with some kind of roadblock to sort of force us to put the brakes on, to take a closer look at where it is we can make some adjustments to how we treat ourselves, all of ourselves, right? Like, again, holistically, body, mind, spirit. Perhaps we need to distance ourselves from certain relationships, to take a break from the news, social media, to spend more quality time in solitude and with the people whose cups are always full and don't expect us to deplete our own in order to fill theirs up. So perhaps there is a call to get reconnected this month to our own spiritual side and spend more time connecting with Mother Earth and allow her healing energies to rejuvenate our spirit. This month is the perfect time to do a major check-in and do any maintenance work that we have been neglecting on ourselves so that we don't get to the point of needing full-on repair. Listen to your body this month and don't subscribe to any level of guilt or shame when it comes to your self-care and taking the time for that self-care, whatever that looks like for you. The world will be there when you reemerge, right? This 7 cycle encourages us to retreat, to reflect, to heal, and to focus on our own holistic health. Under this influence, this is not a time to be impulsive, to take big risks, if you can avoid it. Now, of course, life happens, right? Sometimes we have to make those big decisions, take those big risks, regardless of what the astrology, the numerology, or the energy sort of dictates. And so, of course, follow your heart, follow your circumstances, use your logic, whatever. Do what you need to do. But if you can avoid it, this is going to be a time, again, just think of like sinking into the stillness, doing things a little bit more organically, taking your time, taking time for solitude, thinking things through. 7 energy is very, very, very connected to the metaphysical, but also a very practical energy. It's also very connected to the earth. And so there is practicality around this where there's not a whole lot of impulsivity at times. It's more reflective. It kind of takes its time. It wants to make sure that even though it's the bridge between the metaphysical and the physical, what it's bringing into the physical, that energy wants to make certain that it's something that is worth bringing into the physical. So again, just take your time under this energy. You don't have to be impulsive. Just make sure that what you're manifesting, what you're bringing in is what you want to bring in. This is an energy where little effort is going to be required for things to come to completion now. You've already done the hard work, the heavy lifting, the input, all of those things. And so now it's going to be a time for, again, sort of sinking into receptivity mode and being open to receiving the rewards, the gifts, the fruition of, the completion, the tangibles of what it is you've been working so hard towards, which is really kind of beautiful because it's like if you've really, if 2021 was a tumultuous year and you had to put a lot of effort into a lot of things and whatnot, this month is really saying, let's capture those rewards. Let's let the rewards come to us. Think of like the spider who's built its web and now it's allowing its nutrients to come to it. It's not seeking it out. That's really kind of like the 7 energy for this month. I believe in astrology, there's several planets that are retrograde. And so this is a time for, again, reflections, receptivity, allowing the nutrients to come to you holistically, body, mind, spirit. And you get to decide whether you're going to eat that nutrients or not, right? Body, mind, spirit. So again, this is going to be a time for and a period for sort of watching and waiting and let this cycle work for you. This is a lovely time for vacations, for staycations, for writing that book that you've always wanted to write, for taking a class that sort of expands the mind, especially if it's anything to do with like theology, religion, metaphysics, mystical teachings, yoga, astrology, numerology, and so on. So things that are sort of not necessarily taboo, but sort of outside the mind that would allow you to expand the mind in a way. This is a great energy for really diving into those sort of classes and taking some kind of maybe lecture or workshop or something like that where you're not expending a lot of energy per se, but you're expanding the mind and expanding the spirit, right? With that little physical effort. So listen to your own internal promptings at this time and pay extra attention to your dreams, your visions, your intuition now. Again, this is very feminine, divine feminine energy, receptivity, stillness, reflection, sinking into, again, the stillness. Where is your soul gently leading you now? This isn't about forcing. This isn't about aggression. This isn't about, again, sort of that more aggressive action of the masculine energy. This is very receptive, very still, very organic and soft energy. So again, where is your soul gently leading you now? The messages can come in as a whisper, but they can also feel like a lightning bolt when you receive it and when you hear it. So overall, with this 7 illumination, do not fight the urge for rest, rejuvenation, and inner reflection. Much can be learned and discovered during this quieter, softer cycle if we listen. You can get answers to some really big questions during this cycle, but you have to be open, you have to be receptive. So be receptive to what the universe is trying to show you now through the stillness. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the individual life path number. Life path number 6, I pulled an animal spirit card for you all, and you got skunk spirit. And skunk's message to you all for January is know your worth. And so we are, of course, stepping into a universal 6 cycle this entire year of 2022. So this is, this is your energy. This year you may not feel the energy as potent because you sort of deal with it all the time, right? You work with this energy all the time. But I think you're definitely going to see things surface around similar challenges, similar opportunities that you would see, that you've seen throughout your journey. And that includes some of the challenges of setting boundaries, of not overcommitting, not saying yes to things that are ultimately, are going to be burdensome. Again, setting healthy boundaries, knowing your worth. So understanding that it's okay to ask for an energetic reciprocation for your efforts put forth. So if that means there's some kind of creative thing that you're putting forth, it's okay to charge for that. It's okay to charge what you feel you're worth for that, without explanation. And, just knowing that, owning your space and not apologizing for that. So I think this month, especially, with Skunk Spirit coming in, advising you to know your worth, you may face some challenges that help you to see that more clearly, and where you're sort of sacrificing yourself and minimizing your worth. And so you'll have some opportunities to see that a little bit differently and maybe approach things a little bit differently, so that you can start to not only see your value, but to allow the rest of the world to see that confidence, and that this is how you feel and you're not going to accept anything less, right? Compromise is one thing. It doesn't hurt to compromise in healthy relationships, but when we get to self-sacrificing, that's a whole other story. And so a lot of times with sixes, because you have such a giving nature, such a nurturing nature, that, it's just innate for you to want to help others, to do things quote unquote right. And, you start to fall into that people pleasing and whatnot. And that can, again, that's self-sacrificing, and you start to devalue yourself. So I think this month is going to have some opportunities for you to really take a closer look at that, like where you're doing that, where you're actively doing that, whether it's conscious or, through your subconscious, and to make some adjustments there. Because once you can start to do that, you'll see things start to shift and things will feel a lot lighter. And the sense of obligation or the sense of martyrdom sort of starts to fall away. And you start showing up to experiences and to people in a way that is, with true gratitude for the opportunity to be able to show up in service in that way. And it's no longer this sense of obligation, but that's because you are actively choosing what you say yes to and what you say no to without guilt or shame, right? You're not being bogged down by the guilt or shame. So just know your worth, especially this month as we move into 2022. Beginning of the month, we definitely see some decisions needing to be made. Like you sort of like being very firm in these decisions. And I think it comes back to boundaries. This is something that we discuss with sixes quite often, because again, it can be very challenging throughout the sixth journey to set those healthy boundaries, and not only set those healthy boundaries, but stick to them and to adhere to them and to show other people that these are my boundaries and I will, and you need to respect this. And those that can't respect it need to move along. You see what I'm saying? So I feel like beginning of the month, you're going to have some opportunities to have some of those conversations, to be very firm in those conversations. It might be something that you're revisiting with somebody, like maybe a family member or a friend who maybe has crossed that boundary because they missed the old you, who would have said yes to everything and who was just accommodating for everything, but who was just getting depleted. And so again, this is just, I think, opportunities for you to once again stand in your power, stand firmly in that, and to not take any bullshit from anybody. You know what I'm saying? But to, and then you're freeing yourself up for those things you actually want to and are capable of saying yes to. So there's a big difference, right? The things that we say yes to, that we are equipped to say yes to, where we show up to that experience much differently than we would if we are saying yes because out of obligation, or a sense of obligation, as opposed to actually needing to say yes to it, when in fact we should have just said no in the first place and saved everybody a lot of hassle, right? So I feel like you're really going to have an opportunity to do that and to be very firm in that decisiveness and sticking with it, and whether people like it or not. Moving into the mid-month, I do feel like, you've gained a sense of autonomy about yourself, and you're really kind of stepping into that leadership role and leadership within your own life, taking the reins back, taking the power back. And this can be through relationships, through, with colleagues, with romantic partners, with friends, family. This can be career. This can be whatever it is. Like if you've been showing up to a job that you just absolutely hate, but maybe it's a family business, maybe there's obligation there, a sense of obligation, but you absolutely hate it. This is going to be the month where, you need to really do some self-reflection and some contemplation and decide what you want and then go after that. Because again, when we are showing up in purpose, when we are showing up in passion and something that speaks to our soul, our spirit, then we can show up for others with that same level of energy. If we're showing up for something that we absolutely hate, and we're not looking for another solution, then that is the energy that we're showing up not only for ourselves, but for our loved ones as well. And that's the energy that we're putting out into the world. So I think this is going to be a month really for you to make some big decisions, to have those conversations, to really do some self-reflection and ask yourself what it is that you want. And then what is your value? What is your worth in that decision, right? Like, how are you going to show up in a way that is true to your nature and true to your own worth? And you are going to get some pushback on this. Like, that's just inevitable because, again, people are used to you showing up in a certain way. And so when you start to become true for yourself, you start showing up in a way that's very true to you, people need time to get used to that. And that's fine. They can do that. You don't have to wait for them to get used to it. They're either on board or they're not. But you probably will get some pushback, and that's just natural, and that's okay. People will react the way that they feel they need to react. You just can decide not to get involved in that chaos, not to get involved in that conflict. You don't owe anybody an explanation for what it is you decide to do with your experience, with your life. It's entirely up to you. You do not owe anybody an explanation. Yes means yes, no means no. People need to respect that. So like I said, I do feel like you're going to get some pushback, but ultimately those people will either calm down and join the ride, or they will decide that they don't really want to be a part of the new you. And that's okay. That can hurt. That can be difficult. And of course, deal with any of those emotions that come up for you around that, but don't get stuck in that because that's not your drama. That's not, those aren't your issues. So don't take on that baggage. Then we move into the end of the month. And again, this is going to be a time where if you can, go on vacation at this time, if you can do a staycation, if you can take some time, as much time as possible for some solitude, for really connecting with self, with your soul, with your higher consciousness, get reconnected, check in with yourself, body, mind, spirit, to see where is some maintenance needed. Because again, as we talked about in the intro, you want to find those things that need the maintenance so that you don't have to go into full-on repair mode, right? And so this is going to be a time for you to really sink into the stillness, do some journaling, maybe take a class, something like that, again, that expands the mind, but that you're not having to physically exert or take on other people's stuff. This is going to be this is going to be a time for you time. So definitely take that opportunity and check in with yourself and just see where you might be a little bit out of balance and maybe need some extra TLC in that area, and then give that to yourself. Find a way to nourish yourself in that way, whatever that is, whatever nourishment you need. That's going to be really important. I think the more that you try to push yourself the end of the month, or force things, or take more action than is necessary end of the month, you're really going to feel that physically. You're going to feel drained. You're going to feel sort of that anxiousness or that, resentment or whatever sort of bubble to the surface. So if you start to feel those emotions coming up, it may be that you're pushing yourself a little bit too hard end of the month, and you really just need to kind of sink into the stillness, sink into your divine feminine, at least as much as possible at the end of the month. Because things will ramp up for you in February, and you want to make sure that you're ready to tackle whatever surfaces for you at that time. So definitely take some me time towards the end of the month as much as possible. I think you're going to need that as well to sort of reflect on some of the decisions that you've made this month, some of the conversations that may have been had, to really kind of check in and say, do I feel good in this space? Space meaning body, mind, spirit, and the experience that you're moving through. And if the answer is no, where do some adjustments need to be made? If the answer is yes, then you're just sort of like filling your cup up even more to be able to continue to move forward in that way. So it's really a beautiful thing. So again, this month is going to ask you to remember your worth, right? And to really stand behind that, even when people question it, even when people want to argue with you or, give you their insights or their advice. You know you, and ultimately deep down within, you know you. And so let that part of you come out and really shine. This is going to be a month to really work towards opening yourself up to that. So hopefully this was helpful. I think there's going to be a lot of internal work this month for you all, as well as some external work of having those conversations with people, and again to readdress some boundaries that maybe have been breached, and sort of take the reins back on that. So hopefully this was helpful. Thank you all so much for listening. Take care, sixes. Bye for now.